Okay, so it's time for day 2 of garden beds. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today. It is day 2 here, May 2020, of getting our garden beds in. So I'll go ahead and link the video here where we actually started the process of getting, well, all of these bricks onto the ground so that we can start growing veggies here in the desert. So we got one full bed complete yesterday. I think I said I had this one done and that wasn't the case, but we did get this one started. And then of course you see behind me here, we got a few things laid out. So learned a few lessons yesterday that I think are gonna help speed the process along for us today. We've got some other things we need to get done today, like shopping for a tractor. So we're not gonna be able to spend all day on the beds. However, we're hoping we can get 1 or 2 of these knocked out before we head out later this afternoon. The one thing I wanna point out, we are definitely learning the huge advantages to string lines. So yesterday we didn't have, I don't know what you want to call this, vertical or horizontal string line, but having a cross in our string lines. We have the string line here, so we know we're basically up into the same spot as far as distance into the center part of the garden area here. But we were definitely getting off when it came to going down these rows. So thought about it last night, finally figured out how to get these things set up correctly. So now we have a string line basically in a rectangle. So that way we should hopefully wind up nice and straight as we get down to the end. Either way, Lori and I have got some work to do. We're gonna go ahead and get to leveling bricks. Okay, so we're done. That took a couple hours. This is just taking a lot longer than we expected, and we're still kind of learning as we go. So we got this bed done. For the most part, it's pretty square. We definitely did a better job of keeping both of the outside lines more squared. Those string lines obviously helped out quite a bit, and we're definitely learning that you level the front and then level as you go back, and if you're going to have something that's a little wonky, you want it in the back. So obviously we're going to make sure as we move on to the next beds, we're going to go ahead and do that. So Laura and I don't have too much more time this morning because we need to head into town for a couple things. What we're going to do is we're going to slide on over to the next quadrant. So we're going to work on that front part of that first bed. And what I think, hopefully if I can get to it today, I'm going to try to show you how I hook up that quick temporary irrigation. Okay, so you can see how simple that was. So essentially what I'm going after here is I have a line here that's glued because this is going to be permanent. This is where obviously we'll have soil where I'm standing, but we'll have an irrigation box that we'll put over the top of this, and then of course we'll have drip irrigation. We have a line that's about 50 or so feet from here that we'll tap into that already has reduced pressure specifically for drip irrigation, which is what we're going to be running into each one of these beds. On the other side of this bed, I will end up extending this line. So this is a dry fit line because I'll actually tap into the line here to attach it here, and then I'll also stub up to the outside because we will have an in-ground planting bed right here in front of us. So that's the reason why you saw me dry fit this. Either way, now what we're ready for is we can go ahead and get this block placed get our string lines drawn to the other end, and we'll eventually get this bed done. Okay, so here we are. Today is actually day 3 of our garden bed project. Now, we haven't gotten very far. For a vacation, it seems like I haven't gotten much done. But we had a busy day yesterday. We had to do some tractor shopping. In fact, if I can find it, I'll link some video footage here of that. We also have our lawn tractor being delivered today. And most importantly, if Lori scans that way, we have an outbuilding that literally should be constructed in front of our eyes. Hopefully you can see it because the sun's just coming up. Either way, got a whole lot of things going on today. Lori and I are still going to continue working on the garden beds here. I don't know how much footage we're going to get of this because that outbuilding is going to be pretty fun. I'm hoping to get that video up. In fact, maybe before this one, so we can see that get erected in a day. I'm super excited about that. Either way, lots of busy things to do today, lots of work to get done. Hopefully I can share as much as possible with you guys. So let's get to work. It is day 4 of our garden bed installation. You can see we've got 5 beds done. It's taken us some time, but we're finally to the point now where I think we've got a few of the steps that are needed in order to get these blocks set evenly and very quickly. So we kind of have a system. So I know we'll get that last bed on this side done and get started on these other 2 quadrants on this side. One other thing, we have our outbuilding construction going on right now, and I talked to the foreman yesterday. They had a bobcat out here, so I don't know if you can see it or not, but on the other side of our blocks here, we finally got the sand moved back here close, so I'm not having to run up front to get sand. So hopefully that'll speed it up as well. Now we're going to be using our equipment to take a look at the outbuilding construction today. So I don't know how much we're going to have as far as footage for this. However, one other thing I wanted to mention, we had talked a little bit about recessing these middle beds. And after seeing the front of the block, which is not all that attractive, we decided to go ahead and just leave these all with an extension, or the ability to do an extension. So not exactly sure what that's going to look like yet, but we did change the design a little. So it's nice and cool. The guys for the outbuilding are not here yet, so we're going to go ahead and get to work on these beds. Finally back, the outbuilding actually is up, so looking forward to getting that video up. But we're still continuing to get our garden beds installed. So if Lori wants to pan that way, you'll see we got the first 2 quadrants done. And overall, I think we've learned a lot going through this whole process. That last bed is a lot cleaner than the first one. But either way, we've come back and we've started to prep the second section. You can see we've still got plenty of block. Then you can kind of get an idea of how we've started here. So wanted to just kind of talk about a couple things that we've learned as we've gone through this process, things that are speeding this up and also giving us a better result. Okay, so first thing would definitely be the fact that sand is your friend. We have definitely learned that having sand on the ground makes settling the bricks and moving a lot quicker very possible. So we make sure we get the high point of the bed, and that's where we typically start. Now we do start in the front one way or another, but we get the highest point. We usually start with this brick here, and we work down from there to make sure that we stay level. So sand's your friend. Next thing would be measurements and straight lines. So we've already got the straight line done from the front. We noticed that leaving that up, we were tripping over that thing every time we tried to walk across it. So we set the bricks. All of these 6 beds on this side are already set. So those are ready to go and ready for us to continue with what you see set there. So it allows us to very easily go from one to the next, get string lines set up and get our equipment there and get going. So it's definitely speeding up the process for us. So string lines are great. They're going to help to make sure that we're staying in the right width. The first few beds we got real wonky. We noticed that quickly, that we would get wonky and the backs would not go well. Also, it works to do both sides at the same time. And what we use is a block that we know fits just perfectly in here. So it's cut to size. I think it's right at 39 to 40 inches. So it's cut to size. We take this with us as we're going to double check measurements. Next thing would be a nice big long level. I was using our little baby level, our bullet level for a while, or torpedo level. Having this, we can check level as we're going back very quickly, and also we can check level going across. So that definitely helps. And then a square, so we do make sure that at the front of the bed and at the back of the bed, we're remaining square. That definitely helps as well, just to make sure, again, you're staying in a straight line. And then this little guy here, I think they're called screed blocks or something like that. Anyways, utilizing this to basically draw across your sand to flatten it. I mean, there have been times when I've been able to draw that, again, as a rookie, draw that across, and setting the block on it was basically level, and we move on to the next. So all these things, obviously, we're learning, definitely helping out with this process. And then, of course, having a canopy above you here in the middle of the day, trying to get this done before my vacation's over. So we're gonna go ahead and continue. We're about halfway done, so we're excited for that, and still have a lot of work to do. Bed number 7, lucky number 7 is done. So you can see, hopefully we got that on camera, so you guys got a chance to see us do that block by block. But overall, I think so far that's probably the straightest one we've had. Used a whole lot more sand as well. So definitely sand is helping out as we go through this process. Today's Thursday, obviously I'm on vacation through the weekend. We're hopeful that we can get these last 5 beds done over the next couple days. Day 5, it's May 15th. Day 5 of garden beds, at least. So we've got a few hours this morning. We actually are going to sign paperwork and pay for a tractor. So we've got that we've got to do later this morning in through the middle of the afternoon. So we're going to see, hopefully we can get a bed or two done this morning before we head into this weekend. Lori and I spent the last few hours, you can see, getting 2 more beds done, and that's gonna wrap it for today. So at this point, we are 75% complete. So as Lori scans that way, you'll see we had the first 6 beds in there. So those are done, and now we finished the first 3 in this 3rd quadrant. And then the 4th quadrant, we've actually already started. Those are already placed like we were talking about before. Sun's just up very early on Saturday, May 16th, finishing up this week of garden beds. Anyhow, we've got 3 more beds to do, and we're done with the beds themselves. And we've got other things going on today. It's a Saturday. We got a phone call from our old neighbors. They thought they had laying hens and wound up with meat chickens, and there's 5 of those that they want us to come help process. We have the guy coming out this morning to get the doors on the outbuilding, so it's going to be completely done by the end of today. And then, of course, the beds. Lori and I are just getting tired of moving bricks. Either way, this is day number 6 of brick moving for Lori and I. See, we got a couple more beds done, and actually we started the last bed. Lori and I are really excited about that because we're thoroughly exhausted. So we usually start about 5:15 in the morning. It's 10 o'clock now. Getting very hot. It's hard work, so we like to try to cut it off at 10 when we can. We got a good start for tomorrow morning, so we should be able to wrap up the actual building of the beds themselves tomorrow. It's hard to believe, but it's day 7. We're actually out here. The sun is actually just coming up, so we're a few minutes earlier. We've got one bed left, and we started it yesterday before we wrapped up. So fingers crossed we can knock this out quickly and actually have all 12 of these beds in. Okay, so after 7 days of backbreaking work, we've got 12 garden beds installed. So I'll tell you what, Lori and I are exhausted. There's no other way to describe that. But looking back, we've got a lot of growing space that's now available, well, will be available to us shortly. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these beds and actually talk about numbers. I'm gonna start with inches. Obviously you can do the feet conversions. I'll give you those as well, but outside, so the outside of this rectangle is 227 inches. The width, so going this direction, is 55 inches from as far as the outside dimension. So inside dimensions, it's 211 inches as far as the length, and the width is 39 inches. So basically the beds are about 17.5 feet as far as growing space, 17.5 feet by about 3 feet or so, 3¼ feet on the inside. So total numbers as far as what we're growing in, so we've got about 51 square feet per bed. So 51 square feet is our actual growing space. And as far as cubic feet, if you go up a foot with soil, which is our plan because we want to leave space for mulch, it's around 57 cubic feet per bed. So total numbers as far as all 12 beds, we're looking at about 612 square feet as far as total growing space and 684 cubic feet of dirt in order to get these filled. So obviously that's a whole nother day. We'll be doing that here in the fall. But a couple other things about these beds that I want to point out. First thing would be the bricks themselves. Now, we did not reinforce these bricks. You saw us installing them. We did use sand to level. Only a couple areas where we had about 1 inch thick of sand. Otherwise, it was probably less than that. Either way, we just used enough sand to get them level. We haven't filled them with anything. I did get ABC so that we get that bottom layer filled with ABC if we decide to do that. Still on the fence as to whether or not we will. We kind of want to see how these settle before we do anything like that in case we need to make any adjustments. We also do intend on putting some protection on here. We've got jackrabbits, which is really frustrating, but we've got big jackrabbits that can easily get into these beds, so we're going to definitely have to get some type of fencing up around each bed, and then of course netting. So each one of these bricks will allow us to use combinations of EMT piping and rebar in order to reinforce and also build structures above it. We can also make little mini hoop houses, things like that in these beds. So lots of options when it comes to brick with what you can do with the bed itself when it comes to protection of your crops. Obviously, we need soil. We're looking at different options as far as soil. We're going to definitely test several of them out with these beds. So that'll obviously be another discussion once we get into fall and we start bringing soil in. One other thing, we talked a little bit about irrigation, and we do have the irrigation stubbed up. So as Lori scoots in closer, you'll see it. So we do have lines run to the ends of the garden area, and those are actually already a lower pressure, so there's pressure reducers as far as the water flow, so that will allow us to use drip irrigation in each of the beds. All I need to do is run those the length of the garden area and attach them in here. So we will use drip irrigation in these beds, and I've already got that stubbed up here. We also are going to do an extension on the front part of these beds, and that will be for in-ground growing. We'll get to that here in just a second, but we will have an extension in the front. We made these even, and we did set these back about 5 feet from the edge of this area. So we do intend on adding irrigation to the front. So I did stub this up where we'll plug in, give irrigation to this front bed, and then we'll be able to connect to the main line. So that was part of the design. As far as what we're going to have in the front and the design, we don't have any set plans. We do know that it will be some type of brick or stone. So if you guys got some ideas, let us know there. One last thing, we are going to protect these beds from squirrels, groundhogs, whatever you want to call them. I think they're Gunnison prairie dogs or whatever they are. Anyways, they're all over the farm, and they will dig up through the ground and start destroying our crops. So we are going to put a layer of hardwood cloth down in here. We don't have time to do that today or this week. So we're going to get to that probably next weekend, and we will document that for you guys as well. Overall though, pretty excited. We've got these beds in. I know Lori's excited as well to get some fall crops into these beds. So a couple more steps and we are just about there. The one last shot, I wanted to give you guys a view of what we see when we look out from the house. So Lori's on our back patio overlooking the farm. So you get an idea. Obviously this is just infrastructure. Lori and I were talking last night about the fact that we want to see a lot more green, which we will. You can already see with grapevines surrounding the garden beds, and then of course crops growing inside the garden beds. You'll get a really good idea of what we'll be able to see just off the patio here in zone 1. So very excited to see this. Obviously a whole lot more work to do still, but the grunt work as far as these beds are concerned is done. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you.
Okay, so I think Dwayne was a little jealous of me riding on the tractor yesterday. So he decided that he was gonna ride a tractor today too.